In Chapter 9 of Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility, while out walking one day, Marianne and Margaret are caught in a sudden storm. In a rush to get back to the cottage, they descend a steep hill, and Marianne stumbles and sprains her ankle. A handsome young hunter sees her fall and comes to her aid, carrying her into the Dashwoods' house. His kindness impresses Marianne's mother, as do his youth, beauty, and elegance. He introduces himself as Willoughby, and before he leaves, he asks to call on Marianne the next day. The handsome stranger has pleased and impressed everyone. To Marianne, these events seem indicative of romance and destiny. Later that day, Sir John reports that Willoughby is a good-humored man with a fine hunting dog and a small estate nearby. He stands to inherit other property from his aunt and is, Sir John assures Elinor, extremely eligible. Mrs. Dashwood and her daughters object to Sir John's bantering about marriage and meddling in this way, but he laughs and then pities Colonel Brandon, who is also a good catch for Marianne, but will now have to compete with the younger Willoughby. In Chapter 10 of Sense and Sensibility, it's the next day, and Willoughby visits Marianne. He's impressed by her sparkling beauty and her family's affection. Marianne learns that Willoughby loves the same kind of dancing and music as she does, and she introduces him to her favorite writers. After he leaves, Elinor teases Marianne that she and Willoughby will have already discussed every topic of importance and will soon run out of things to talk about. Marianne takes offense, accusing her sister of critiquing her for not being reserved, spiritless, and dull, until Mrs. Dashwood assures her that Elinor was just kidding. Willoughby seems exactly formed to engage Marianne's heart. They spend time together daily. Thinking of this relationship rather than Willoughby's social position, Mrs. Dashwood begins to anticipate their engagement. As the days progress, Elinor becomes aware that Colonel Brandon also loves Marianne. She pities him, especially because Sir John has hinted at past sorrows in Brandon's life. Willoughby and Marianne belittle Brandon. Willoughby loudly proclaims that Brandon's well thought of but not worth noticing. Elinor reprimands them and defends Brandon as someone sensible. In Chapter 11 of Sense and Sensibility, Mrs. Dashwood and her daughters attend balls, parties, and other entertainments at Barton Park. Willoughby and Marianne show their affection for each other. Elinor tries to persuade Marianne to show self-restraint, but she refuses. While Marianne is deeply happy, Elinor's lonely, making do with conversational partners such as the elderly Mrs. Jennings and the quieter Lady Middleton, whose only interest is in her children. Colonel Brandon is the only one she finds for lively conversation and friendship. One evening, as he and Elinor talk, Brandon brings up second attachments. That is, marriage after having been widowed or prevented from marrying another. Marianne, Elinor confirms to Brandon, considers these impossible. Brandon speaks of another young lady who, like Marianne, held romantic views of love that led to unfortunate circumstances. But he can't bring himself to say any more.